All right, let's look at just a few more because I just want to practice our factoring skills just a little bit more. Looking at this A down here, first I look for a GCF. That's the first thing I'm always going to look for. What's the biggest thing that can go into 5, 27, and 10 evenly? Just a 1. Do they all have X's? Okay, so there is no GCF. Once you've checked for the GCF, if it's a trinomial, which this is, 1, 2, 3, 3 terms. If it's a trinomial, we're going to go into that A times C rooftop. So it's kind of a little checklist of things that you look for. So you always look for the GCF first, and then if it's a trinomial, we do the A times C rooftop. So A is in front of the x squared, C is the constant. What do you get if you take A times C? 50. Okay, what do I want my numbers to add to be? 27. I want the numbers to add to be 27, and I want them to multiply to be 50. Don't blurt it out. I want everyone to take a second and think about it. What multiplies to be 50 that adds to be 27? And what is it?
25.
Good. 25 and 2, 2 and 25. It doesn't matter which one you write first. Okay, so I'm going to recopy the very front part, the 5x squared. Instead of the middle guy, I'm going to write the plus 25. I just have to remember to put an x behind it. And then I'm going to write the plus 2. I just have to remember to put an x behind it. And then I recopy the plus 10. So basically, I'm just recopying the problem, except for instead of using the middle term, I use these two numbers that I came up with. Okay, this is when I start factoring out my GCF. So looking at my first two that I wrote, what would be the greatest common factor that goes into 5x squared plus 25x? 5x. Once you find your GCF, you build your parentheses. 5x times what makes 5x squared? X. And 5x times what makes 25x? A plus 5. Beautiful. Okay. Then I look at the back two things. Looking at those back two things, what's the greatest thing that will go into 2 and 10? 2. Do they both have x's?
No.
Nope, so no x's. And then this is where I feel like I'm cheating. If I wrote x plus 5 here, I'm just going to write x plus 5 here. The two things in parentheses have to be the same. Absolutely identical. Have to be. Then I try to figure out what kind of 2 is it. Is it a positive 2 or is it a negative?
Positive.
It's a positive 2. That way, 2 times x makes that 2x. 2 times 5 makes that 10. Okay, and then the final step, you just take what's in both of these parentheses, and you just write it one time. And then you take what's left over. What's left over?
5x plus 2.
5x plus 2, and it goes in the other set, and you've got your answer. And, of course, you could always double distribute to check your work. Courtney?
So why is the 5x not in the parentheses and the 2x is in because it has...
Why is this 5x not in the parentheses? Because when I'm ready for that very first step there, I'm looking for the GCF. What's the greatest thing that can go into 5 and 25, which is a 5. And then what's the greatest number of x's they both have, which is 1. So your GCF is always like outside of the parentheses. And then once you find your GCF, that's when you slap the parentheses behind it and figure out what goes in there. So like 5x times what made that? And 5x times what made that? And then here I looked for my GCF. I looked for what's the greatest thing that goes into 2 and 10, which is a 2. So your GCF is always like outside of the parentheses. And then in the last step, the things that are outside of the parentheses, they go in parentheses together. Okay, let's look at B. Do I have a GCF? Is there anything, and these have 1s in front, is there anything that goes into 1, 1, and 20 besides a 1? No. And they don't all have x's. So here I go. I'm going to take my A times C rooftop since I've got a trinomial. What is A times C?
1.
What kind of 20?
Negative.
A negative 20. What do you want your numbers to add to be?
Negative 1.
A negative 1. Okay, everybody try to come up with those numbers, but don't blurt it out. trying to find two numbers that multiply to be negative 20 that add to be negative 1. Okay, what'd you get? Okay, a 4 and a negative 5, or a negative 5 and a 4. You just have to make sure that your 5 is the one that's negative. Okay, so then I recopy the 1x squared, but instead of using the middle guy, I'm going to use these numbers I just came up with. So what would I write?
X squared
Plus 4x minus 5x minus 20. Okay, then I start looking for my GCF out of the first two. So out of the first two, what's the greatest thing that goes into 1 and 4? A 1, and then they both do have 1x in common, so 1x. Slap your parenthesis down. 1x times what makes 1x squared? X. And 1x times what makes 4x? A positive 4. And this 1 that I wrote here, I don't have to write it. Okay, then I look at my back two guys. What's the greatest thing that will go into a 5 and a 20?
5.
A 5. They don't both have x's, so I can't do that. And then here I feel, like I said earlier, I get a cheat. If this is x plus 4, what am I going to write right there? X plus 4. They always have to be the same. Then I come back and I figure out what kind of 5 does that need to be? Negative. That way, negative 5 times x makes that negative 5x, and negative 5 times 4 makes that negative 20. Okay, and then the final step. What goes in one of your sets of parentheses? X plus 4. And what would go in your other set of parentheses? X minus 5. Or 1x minus 5. It wouldn't really matter. Okay, I'm going to have you guys try one. Let's see here. Okay, let's try x squared plus 4x minus 21. X squared plus 4x minus 21. Why don't you try that one right there? X squared plus 4x minus 21.
No.
Negative 3.
7 and then
Yeah,
I told you I couldn't find it earlier, remember?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean you can't find it later.
I can't. This one. You know me. I got this.
I know, but I wanted you to try that problem I just broke down.
Alright. Whiteboard? Alright.
Well, I don't care. I mean, they're doing it off the paper, but. Have you done your Okay, so x times 4 makes x. X times what would be 7. So, sorry, so now we'll see the for this to distribute, it has to look like that. So, okay, and then your final text. Yes, it is.
you get it?
I think so. Probably got it wrong. That's okay, so it should be.
It can be so easy.
Not for me. I don't know why. I don't pay attention.
You copied Caitlin the whole time.
That's where I lost this.
Okay, so the only thing that goes into the 7
Yeah.
Wait, do y'all have that
x times what would give you?
Y'all too?
No, I'm the fourth.
You have a third? Oh yeah, yeah. Is that weird?
So that should be 1x plus 7. So then that should be 1x plus 7.
We're supposed to be doing what?
But for this to distribute, to give you that, and the 3 is that.
Negative or plus? It is negative.
Yeah, because negative 3 times x is negative 3x, and negative 3 times positive 7 makes that negative 21. Like, take a second to distribute this and see if it gives you that. So, if you would have got that 3 times that 3 would give you 21, and you would know you made a mistake over here.
Oh no, I already have one with
Yeah, that's it.
And no, one with Wisconsin and one with Michigan. I say, hey, Brett.
Oh, you did that.
Okay, and then it's like oh wait. I thought you meant like.
Okay, what'd you guys
How
get?
about the other half? What if you did?
What'd you get for an answer?
X plus 7 and then x minus 3.
Yeah, x plus 7 and x minus 3. Does someone want to see me go through it?
No, they both.
X plus 7, x minus 3. Okay, can I tell you something and not make it confuse you forever? I want you guys to look at something real quick. So everyone, please pay attention. Tyler, I want everyone to pay attention.
I got it.
I don't care. I want to tell you something that could make your life slightly easier,
Awesome.
but I don't want it to confuse you. All of these we've been doing the same way, right? But there is a shortcut. But I have to make sure, Tyler, on your phone. I have to make sure you remember when to use the shortcut and when not to use the shortcut. Because in the past, when I tell students about the shortcut, they want to use the shortcut for every problem, but you can't. So this one had a 5 in front, and I worked through the problem, and this is what my answer looked like. Did the things in the parentheses look like these at all? Let's just look. This one had a 1 in front, and I worked through it this way. Look at that. Look at those. Okay. Oh, I didn't do my Xbox here. On this one, when you did your A times C, you got the negative 21. You wanted them to add to be 4, and you found a 7 and a negative 3. This one here also has a 1 in front. When this one had a 1 in front, look at these numbers. Look at your answer. You noticing anything?
Yeah.
When there is a 1 in front, I like to call them the easy one. So when there's a 1 in front, once you come up with these numbers, I could jump straight to the answer by knowing that to make an x squared, x would have to go here and x would have to go here. Because you know how x times x makes x squared? So I know that that's why those are x's. And then since that's a positive 4, I put positive 4. Since that's a minus 5, I put minus 5. Same thing here. I know to make an x squared, x goes here and here. And then once I see this is a positive 7, I write plus 7. Once I see this is minus 3, I write minus 3. So you can work through these the long way every time, no matter what the problem looks like. But if there is a 1 in front, we can call it the easy one and we can shortcut. Once you come up with those two numbers, you can slap them down or you can work it the long way. But if there is not a 1 in front, you can't do that because it wasn't these numbers that were here and here. So if it's not a 1 in front, you have to work through it the long way. But if there's a 1 in front, we can shortcut and just go straight to the answer.
So if there's like a 1 and like the middle one, you can't do that, right?
It doesn't matter about the middle, it's all about the beginning.
Just the first one.
Just the very first one. So let me just make up one real quick. If I gave you... Now let's do minuses. Okay, so if I gave you x squared minus 7x plus 12. Let's look at this one for a second. X squared minus 7x plus 12. First of all, you still always look for a GCF, no matter what. You always look for a GCF. Is there anything that, and there's a 1 in front of this, is there anything that goes into 1, 7, and 12 besides 1? No. Do they all have X's? No. So then we'll do the A times C rooftop. What would you get if you took A times C? 12. And what would you want them to add to be? -7. Okay, see if you can think of those numbers. What multiplies to be 12 that adds to be -7?
-6 and -1.
Those don't multiply to be 12, though.
3 and 4.
Oh.
What kind of 3? What kind of 4?
-3. Positive 4.
To multiply to be a positive 12,
Oh, negative, yeah.
they either both are negative or they're both positive. Those are the ones, right? I want to try the shortcut. As long as it's a 1 in front, I can shortcut. I can go straight to slapping down my 2 sets of parentheses. What times what makes x squared? X times x. And then I can just write those 2 answers down. That's a -3, so I write -3. That's a -4, so I write -4, and I'm done. Okay? But you can do these the long way every time. You've already seen it. You can do these the long way every time. But if there is a 1 in front, let's call it the easy one, and you can go straight to the answer. But if it's not a 1 in front, you don't get to do that. So if it's not a 1 in front, you have to go through it the long way. Okay. I just wanted to show you one other one real quick. Looking at E, it says the area of the rectangle is represented by this. What are the length and what are the width? Okay, so you know how area is length times width? Area is length times width. Area is something times something. That is looking for factors. Whenever you're looking for something times something, you're looking for factors. So that means we actually want to factor this problem. So anytime you have something times something, those are called factors. And that's what I want. I know the area. I'm just looking for the length and I'm looking for the width. So let's try to factor this. First thing up, does it have a GCF? Nope. And then I'm going to go straight to A times C rooftop. What does A times C give you? -5. Okay, I'm going to show it over here, I guess. -5. What do we want them to add to be?
4.
The +4. Okay. What 2 numbers do that?
-1 and 5.
A -1 and a +5. And then do I need to do it the long way or can I shortcut? I can shortcut because of the 1 in front. Do you know how you'd write your answer? And x plus 5. And you have found the length and you have found the width. Because area is length times width. So this length times this width would give me what I started with. Like if I took a second and I double distributed it. Okay, so working on the assignment more that I gave you yesterday. So you guys have already done the 4 through 8. So I want you to do the 1, 2, 3 and the 9, 10, 11. So you've got the 1, 2, 3 to do, and you've got the 9, 10, 11 to do. This is the same assignment from last night. I just want you to try the 1, 2, 3 and the 9, 10, and 11.
I crossed out all the other problems.
Well, you could do them like on a separate piece of paper, I guess. Can you still see them? I mean, like you cross them out where you can't see them anymore?
I put a bit more here.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if you can see them, you could just do them on a different piece of paper. Yeah, if you can still read them, if you can still see what they say. I mean, if you can't read them, I mean, I can give you another. Otherwise, you could just do it on a separate piece of paper. So, 6 problems for tomorrow also. The 1, 2, 3, the 9, 10, 11. And don't forget about the shortcut. As long as there's a 1 in front, you can shortcut. But if there's not a 1 in front, you can't.